Morning, everyone.
Morning.
How are we?
Good morning.
Bear with us here. My name's Josh. I'm team leader down in Plainville and Sharon. And I'm going to be teaching this with Laura. I'm just waiting for her to sign on. We're having some technical issues. Just bear with me today. This is the first time I'm teaching this class, so hopefully it runs relatively smoothly. So just give us a minute, okay?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Isabel.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hope everybody's doing well. I had
Super.
my first closing.
Congratulations.
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 Well, it's not a done deal, but it's not signed yet, but they accepted the offer.
That's a big deal. It's a big deal. Congratulations.
We'll get the signatures, the purchase and sale agreement signed today, but DocuSign is down, so having a problem with that.
Damn computers.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so very sorry I was late. I was having some technology issues on this lovely morning. So I do apologize. Can everybody hear me? Awesome.
Yes.
Perfect. Is Jen or Brooke here? Is there anything that you guys need me to do before getting started, or? They're not here. Okay, awesome.
They're not here. It's just you and I.
Okay. Perfect. I'm like, where are we? What are we doing?
It's a little nerve-wracking, just you and I right now. So
All right, awesome. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready to roll.
Okay, awesome. Do you want me to pull up the PowerPoint, or are we just, what do you?
Up to you. So like, obviously I know the PowerPoint for us has notes on it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to share at this point. This is the first time I've taught this, so.
Okay, awesome. I'll pull up the PowerPoint. So just give me 1 second. I have it open.
Yep.
Did you introduce yourself already, or did you
I did a very short introduction.
Okay.
Just of
Perfect.
my market center, and that's it.
Okay, awesome. Let me hold on 1 second. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and do something at the same time, and that's not.
It's like talking and it's trying to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. It just doesn't work that well.
That is correct. All right, can everybody see this PowerPoint?
Yep.
Hey, okay, good, awesome. So I'll just introduce myself real quickly. My name is Laura Strunk. I am the team leader at Keller Williams, Cape Cod, and Colonial Partners in Massachusetts. And I am also a KW approved trainer. I love Ignite. I think anyone should take Ignite as many times as possible until they have those 12 transactions a year. It is truly the foundation of agents business. So I'm super excited. And, excited to be talking about buyer consultations because, especially in this market, we got to control the buyer. There's a lot of emotions around this. So I'm assuming everybody's kind of seeing that in their market, that it's still, it's maybe shifted a little bit, but they're still seeing a lot of offers, not as much inventory as would like to see. And that makes it challenging with buyers. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to kind of tag team this. So feel free to jump in, if you wanted, if there's anything that you wanted to share on this slide or.
Fair enough.
Yep. So here's what I always tell agents. Here's the really good news. Let's think about this. You have only 2 presentations to create a master. There's only 2 types of clients out there, buyers and sellers. So this is a moment that I always tell people, this is a time where you want to slow down in order to speed up. Spend a day, a half a day, a couple hours, get your listing presentation and get your buyer presentation done, and then practice it every day, because you won't run across any other types of clients, buyers or sellers. That's it. So yeah, go ahead.
When you get belly to belly with someone, you want to have your playbook right in front of you, right? We always talk about messaging and marketing, but this is really what's going to set you apart from every other agent in the marketplace, is by having your consultation ready to go and at a high level, as well as your seller's consultation.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way I always I want everybody to kind of think of this answer or even throw it in the chat right now if you feel comfortable. But imagine if Josh and I got on here today and we said, hey guys, guess what? We were going to talk about buyer consultations and presentations today in Ignite, but we have some good news. We've spent the last week actually generating business. And for the entire 31 people on this call, we actually have 31 pre-approved buyers who are ready to buy a home. And all they want to do first is meet with an agent in 30 minutes and talk about the process, talk about what they're looking for, and talk about what their expectations are. How many of you would be like, let's go, I'm ready to go, we're game on? Or how many would be like, no, I'm scrambling, like I can't figure this out, like I don't have enough time. You want to be at any point in time, pretend you're in that scenario, your phone rings this second, and someone's on that other line saying, hey, I want to buy a home. Can you meet me in 30 minutes to go over the process? Or I want to sell a home. Can you meet me in 30 minutes to go over the process? And if you can't confidently say, yep, I'd be ready to go. I could grab a presentation off my folder because it's already customized. I know it. It's already printed in a folder. Maybe I have to add some supplemental things for that specific person, but that should only take 15 minutes. And I can walk out the door and go on this presentation. That's where you want to be. And here's why. So Josh, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
You work with a lot of agents, and the agents that you see that have a system, meaning they have their buyer presentations done, they're ready, same thing with listing presentations, are they more or less likely to actually attract clients because it's already done than agents who do not?
Much more likely.
Yeah, why do you think that is the case?
Because they have the system and model in place for them to be successful, and they know what's going to work for them at a high level. And that's going to differentiate yourself from the market. I'm sorry, is D'Artagnan Stein? Is that right? Are you looking at the chat, Laura?
Oh, I'm not. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yes.
Documents needed for the transaction. Are we? So we can go over that later on, but we'll tell you exactly what you need. But for a consultation, it's more about the services that you're providing, as well as how to get the right market value. And then when you get closer to actually presenting them to sign a deal, that's when we can talk about the documents you're going to need.
Yeah. And once again, the great news is, I always view it as, I actually have a flow chart. I should have pulled it up, and I'm not going to. Once again, you have the buyer presentation and the listing presentation. You have to be able to nail those.
Yep.
And then you have to know how to write an offer for a buyer.
Yep.
And prepare a listing agreement for a seller. There's only 4 skill sets, because I can guarantee you, if once again, same scenario, we walked in here today and said, hey, congratulations. No, we didn't just have a buyer, we actually have a signed offer between a buyer and a seller today, and you each get one. Would you guys be able to figure out how to get to the closing table? You would, right? You would figure it out. You'd find the resources, figure it out. So all you need up front is to know how to do those 4 things: go on a buyer presentation, go on a listing presentation, fill out a buy an offer, fill out a listing agreement. That's what you need to start working with the client. So practice those every day. Pretend I've been in the business for 17 years. My first 3 weeks of being in this business, I would go into the MLS, I would pull a listing, I would prepare an offer. Back then, we didn't have electronic signatures, it was all pen to paper. And I would take the offer home to my husband and I would make him buy a home every single night. And I would explain it to him and I'd have him sign it and And after about 2 weeks, I told myself I'll do this for 3 weeks. After 2 weeks, I was like, I got this. I don't need to practice it anymore because I did it enough. Like, this is being proactive around your business. And for me, what I see is agents who don't do that work, who don't have the presentations done, who haven't practiced the contracts, they actually repel clients because they don't feel confident themselves. So they don't put themselves out there to say, hey, I'm looking to help a buyer, I'm looking to help a seller who's out there, because they're like, I kind of want to help someone, but I don't really believe that I know what I'm doing yet.
That's a really good point.
Maybe I'll just not raise my hand that high.
That's a really good point. You could be a fantastic marketer, but unless you have the, I guess, backbone in place, like the building blocks for what you need to be to actually get a buyer's agency agreement signed or to get an offer signed, doesn't matter how much marketing you do or how you get your name out there, you don't have the business portion of this set up appropriately for you to be successful.
Yep. And that's what we're going to do today. So that's exciting. So I can tell you, like, depending on how creative you want to get, especially with the command tools that you're going to see today, that's already prepared for you. You know, the buyer presentation is pretty solid. It's a big improvement to the old one. You know, it probably only take you 2 to 3 hours to customize it, you know, and I'm talking about if you really want to make it special in your own. You know, you could probably customize it in an hour and it would be, you know, sufficient. But if you really want to supercharge this, it's probably only going to take 2 to 3 hours to customize it. And then it's just into practicing. So, you know, this is where, like, go in, find yourself a half a day. I'm going to create my buyer presentation, find another half a day. I'm going to create my listing presentation, get those done, and then start practicing. Okay. So, you know, I know it feels overwhelming just getting into the business or just getting into production, that there's all these things I have to learn. Break it down in your head. There's only 2 types of clients: buyer, seller. That's it. Buyer, seller. That's all you got to focus on. Okay, break it down, chunk it down into that. All right. So this is just kind of a flow chart of what we're going to go over today. Sorry, I got to keep moving everybody's faces so I can read it and then also click the thing. So sorry about that. So let me go back. Sorry. So this is kind of the flow chart, talking about setting the appointment, preparing the presentation, conduct the consultation, recap, and then going into your success habits in regards to lead generation and follow up and all that good stuff. So you've probably seen this graph before. And guys, feel free to ask questions, unmute yourself, ask questions. Josh, if you can kind of monitor the chat, it's just a little bit too much for me to.
I got it. I got to be useful somehow, right? So
no, absolutely. I know my limits, and talking and clicking a PowerPoint is really my limit.
We talked about this already. Walking and chewing gum. It's tough. It's really tough. So.
And hey, guys, can I throw a monkey wrench in for a minute? It's Brooke.
Yeah.
Hey, Brooke.
Hey, so something happened to the registration link, and can I stop your share for a minute so I can just push this to the Facebook group so people who can't get in can watch it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Hi, guys. How is everybody?
Hi.
Hey, Cynthia. Yeah, we'll get that up for you after.
Thanks, Brooke.
Yeah, thanks. We were a little panicked. We were by ourselves. We're like,
that's okay. I'm just trying to get it.
Laura took over, thankfully. Laura took over, thankfully.
That's okay. I'm just trying to get it to go to the Facebook group real quick. Talk amongst yourselves. We'll get those links up.
Hi, General Sma. Then we got who else? The Melendezes. Hello. Rachel. Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hey, everyone.
I just have a question because I'm not going to be able to stay to the end. I have a CMA class to attend. So my question is, if I find the listing, how do I do the presentation to get a preparation for myself? How do I do that? What's the next step?
I'm sorry, for a listing or for your buyer?
In this case, doesn't matter because I don't have it either. I don't have a seller, I don't have a buyer yet. But maybe I'll have a buyer, it will be my husband because he's a flipper. But just in case if I want to practice with him, I get the listing. How do I do my presentation so I can practice with him? What's the next step after I have this listing print out?
I mean, it shouldn't, so the consultation really shouldn't be property based. It's need based off of what your buyer or seller is looking for. So you're not necessarily looking at it as, here's one property, you're going to buy this property type deal. It's more about, okay, you're interested in getting the marketplace. What steps do I need to take? And why should I choose you as an agent? So that's what we're going over right now. A lot of agents that jump right in think about it in terms of, all right, well, this person wants to see a home. I'm going to try and sell them this one home versus actually looking at what their needs are and providing a needs analysis based off of what they're looking for, the areas they're looking in, their price point, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, no worries.
Let me know when you're good, Brooke.
So it's because of how the meeting started, I'm not gonna be able to. So you guys just keep rocking and rolling and doing your thing.
All
and
right.
the recording will be live if anybody
I'm the one
asks,
that
but
started the meeting, so Brooke, you can yell at me if you want.
No, I think it was I think a bunch of settings got changed yesterday somehow. So we apologize, but this will be on the Keller Williams New England YouTube. I'm about to pop a whole bunch of stuff in here. So give me a few minutes while they're going and I'll get all those links for you, okay?
All right, so where I like to start, and it's not necessarily, there's a slide for this, but I always tell our agents here that, as you said, you should expect at any time your phone to ring and someone to be on the other line saying, hey, Laura, I see, you're a real estate agent and we're actually thinking about buying a home. Are you prepared at that point to respond when they say, I'm ready to buy a home? Okay. What I find is, and Josh, you can tell me if you find this too, but what I find is that too many agents try to do the buyer presentation on the phone. They try to do the needs analysis on the phone. And what you're wanting to do when a buyer calls and tells you that they want to buy a home, you first of all want to get excited for them. They're excited, right? They have two emotions. They're excited and they're nervous, excited and nervous. And you got to address both of those emotions. Okay. Remember, logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. So you want to address the emotion, be like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. It's great thinking about buying a new home. And I might ask a few general questions like, tell me, where are you thinking of buying, how quickly do you want to be in a new home? And then you want to go into their nervousness emotion, because their nervousness about what they don't know, about what the process is. Are you the best person to help them? What should they, how can they protect themselves from buying a bad property or making a bad decision? And that's where you want to lead into setting the appointment. So it would sound something like this. It would sound something in regards to, one of the things that I find to be the most beneficial to buyers is we actually take some time and sit down and go through exactly everything that's important to you in your next home. Okay, we're going to find out what you're looking for, what you don't like, what you want to avoid. And we're also going to talk about the process of buying a home and how we're going to work together. So let's go ahead and schedule a time where we can meet in person or via Zoom. And we'll go through all of those three things. And in the meantime, before that meeting, I'm going to actually connect you to my preferred mortgage lenders to get the pre-approval process started, because we'll want that information before we meet. And then if for some reason you can't get pre-approved before we meet, you don't connect with the person or you run out of time, we can always reschedule our appointment. Okay, so for me, it's super important in regards to setting the appointment that the buyers are pre-approved, because they are actually not buyers until they are pre-approved.
Yep.
They're just people, like if I go to Target today and survey 500 people, how many of you would like to buy a home? I bet, in general, how many people would like to in general buy a home? You probably would have a very high rate, but then finding out who can actually buy a home with their situation and financially is a different story. So they have to have a need and they have to have the ability. So, that is, don't try to do the whole needs analysis on the phone. Do you see that as well, Josh?
Yeah, and remember, like half the battle is just matching their energy when you're on the phone to get that appointment. If you're trying to get everything done right then and there, you're going to be scrambling around. You're going to be, kind of talking at your ass, so to speak, which is not something you want to do. You want to match their energy, be excited with them, not play on their emotions, but match their emotions, so to speak. And really just the trial close is playing off of that emotion, showing that you are the right professional for the job by saying, instead of us going out and doing a bunch of showings this weekend, let's take 45 minutes to reset, give me everything you need, and then make sure they're talking to that lender beforehand. And if they already have a lender, that's even better, because they have a plan in place. Basically, they know that they're ready to go and they're just choosing who's going to be the best professional. But remember, literally half the battle, if you have energy, if you're smile, like the term smiling and dialing will work for you. Stand up, smile, be on the phone, be happy. The more energetic you are on the phone, the more likely they're going to say yes to that meeting.
Yeah. And don't feel you have to do this buyer consultation over the phone. I always relate things to doctors. Imagine if you called your doctor and said, hey, I'm really having a lot of pain in my back, and it's been going on for 3 weeks. And the doctor just starts saying, okay, well, let me just ask you some questions. Okay, well, I'm going to just recommend you get surgery in 3 days. So go ahead and schedule that surgery. You'd be like, wait, hold on. Don't you want to look at my back? Don't you want to take some images? Don't you want to find out exactly what my needs are and what the problem is and what the best course of action is? A doctor would never do that. Okay, for something significant, right? Yeah, they might do it for something minor, but something significant, they would not do it. Buying a home is a significant thing.
Right.
So have the same level of professionalism that a doctor would provide. Sit down, really find out what's important to them. What are they trying to accomplish? What are their goals? That's being a professional. When we have the reputation as real estate agents that we're not professional, we do it to ourselves as an industry. And the people that can change that is the industry, is the agents themselves, by acting like professionals. So that's just, keep that in mind. All right. So, Josh, kind of what are your kind of favorite ways for, agents? And I know it's not about prospecting, but I think it's important to talk about in regards to finding buyers right now.
So just speaking from what I was as an agent, I just utilized a CRM at a high level. That was the best way to do it for me. And because I was a dual career agent, I knew that I had about 20 hours a week to really hone in on what I was doing real estate wise. So I was big marketing based. So a lot of Facebook ads, a lot of Google ads, and then jumping into, and for me, for buyers, it was more property based marketing. So going to open houses, trying to meet people that were unrepresented at the time, and just getting my name out there. Really, it was a lot of social media.
Yep. Yeah. So very, very similar. Me as well is, my database and contact management, the people that I knew that already liked and trust me, letting them know that I'm in real estate.
Yep.
And then I'm a resource for them and how I always put it is, I wasn't approaching them of, I can help you buy or sell a home. I'm the person that you should call when you have a question about homes or real estate in general. I want to be that resource for you. So whether you're ever thinking about buying or selling a home or not, feel free to call me and I'll be that resource for you.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of business, came from. Definitely, open houses is a great way to get in front of a lot of buyers. Home buyer seminars is another great way. And, depending on comfort level on COVID, I I'm a happy girl if I could door knock all day long, unbelievably. So I'm one of those like weirdos that love to door knock. And the reason for that, I find people are very rarely are people rude to you face to face. You know, if you show up at the door, they may be hesitant, but they're not going to be rude. And you give them a good smile and a warm greeting, and they turn nice and friendly to you. So there's many different ways to find buyers. And as you can see from the graph, and this isn't about finding the buyers in this, but I think it is always important to remind you of that. You know, finding them, capturing them, continuing to interact with them, both from a technology standpoint. We have the systems with Command to make it super easy with smart plans, etc. And you also, though, have to stay in touch with them voice to voice. Okay, you can't just rely on technology to stay in touch with people. You have to have conversations with people at some level. And that is just the reality. I know Brooke would 100% agree with me on that. Being our tech guru liaison, queen of all tech, that it doesn't work unless there is actual people to people interaction. Okay, so just always remind yourself of that. If you feel like, gosh, I'm doing everything they say and it's not working, really look, am I really doing everything they say? Am I actually having voice-to-voice conversations with people? Or am I skipping that portion? You know, for those of you who've been in training before, my favorite line is, they call it a model in Keller Williams. It's a model, not a menu, right? So on a menu, you might have 9 appetizers and you look and see, I might like the mozzarella sticks. I might like the calamari. I might like the nachos. You know what? I'm going to go with the calamari. And then the entrees, they have 15 and you pick one that you like. Okay. It's a model. You don't, in a model, you eat all 9 appetizers. Okay. You do it all because that's what works. So, you know, don't skip portions and expect it to work because it won't at a high level. It will get you there eventually. It'll just take a very long time. So just always remind yourself of that. All right. So we kind of talked about setting the appointment already. Is anybody struggling with, and feel free to unmute or get into the chat, is anyone struggling with kind of the scenario that Josh mentioned, that like buyers call you and say, hey, we see 3 properties online, we just want to go out and look at them, and you're getting trapped into just showing properties without doing a consultation? Anybody struggling with that? Feel free to unmute, put something in the chat room.
Anyone?
Go ahead.
Anyone at all?
We have so many newbies that they haven't been at this place yet, is what I'm thinking, is that they haven't had that. But this is a great time to take a break and role play this. Ready?
Okay.
Laura, I'm going to be the client. I'm going to be I am not pre-approved.
Okay.
I have not even spoken to a mortgage lender yet,
Yep.
right? How many times do we hear this?
Yes.
So,
It's the most often one.
right?
Okay. So you calling me?
Yep. So
Okay.
ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, Laura?
Yeah?
Hi, I have your magnet on my fridge. You were door knocking here a little while ago, and I was hoping we could get in to see some properties. I live next to that open house you did a couple of years ago.
Oh, so what neighborhood are you in Brooke?
Rose Hill.
Oh, Rose. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I love that neighborhood. I love door knocking your neighborhood. Everybody's so friendly there. So, yeah, and thank you for saving my magnet, by the way. That's awesome.
Well, it's wonderful. So, yeah, so there's a whole bunch of bigger houses in the neighborhood that we see have gone up for sale, and we'd like to get into those tonight, this weekend, whenever we can.
Okay, awesome. I totally understand that, Brooke. Let me ask you a few questions before we go ahead and do that. The home that you're living in now, is that the first home you purchased?
Yes.
Okay, so this next move, will you be selling your current home in order to get into the next home?
We don't know.
You don't know. Okay, so And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because there's a couple different ways to structure it. And it's actually, if you think about it, there's a lot of logistical pieces when you have both properties involved on how to make that work in the best financial sense for you. And here's what I found, Brooke. There's two things that are super important that will actually will allow you to save time and money in this transition, that we actually do before we walk into the properties. Now, don't worry, we can get into those properties super quick. So we'll get into those.
Okay.
And yet what I'm going to suggest is two things happen first. So do you have a lender that you know and trust and have gotten pre-approved with yet?
I mean, when we bought this house 10 years ago, we could probably try to find that guy, but I don't even know if he does things
Does it
anymore.
anymore.
We've never
Okay.
heard from him again.
Perfect. So I have some great lenders. I have a couple different options, both local and through Keller Williams Mortgage. And there's some advantages and disadvantages for doing both. And I recommend you actually get pre-approved with at least one, if not two of them, to find out your options. And that's really going to help you allow you to see is where your financial buying power is and how that works with whether you have to sell your house or not. Okay, because if you do have to sell your house, we'll have to do some things in order for you to put an offer in on a home to make it work.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to have them reach out to you to get that started. It should be able to be done by today, so it can go super quickly as long as you answer the call and answer their questions. It can be done super quickly. And the second thing that I'm going to recommend is let's pick a time for us to go see those homes. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to meet ahead of time for probably about 30 to 45 minutes. And what this will allow is for me to get a really clear idea of what's important to you, what you're looking for, and what your goals are around this. And also for me to explain the process, especially since there's another home involved.
That sounds
So-
great. What are you doing for lunch?
Awesome. So yeah, so lunch, I am busy, and I know you mentioned either tonight or this weekend for looking at the home. I could actually meet today at 4, and that's us to see the homes at 5, or if that doesn't work, because I want to see them when there's still light out. So,
Okay.
I don't want to wait till like 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. Or we could do this weekend, Saturday, meet at 9, and then look at the homes at 10. Which would work better for you?
And then, so we'll end there because, guys, I think you get the basics of it. So, she did talk to me about getting me into the home. She did validate that she kind of knew me. And guys, magnets stay on fridges forever, right? So from door knocking things. But did you notice she didn't use the word transaction? She used the word transition. That's a huge one. Write that across the top of your notepad or your workbook. So if somebody's buying and selling, they're transitioning into a different property. She didn't use the word transaction. That sounds so cold. It is a transaction. We are fiduciaries, but man, what a word to use instead of transaction. So that was my big aha from Ignite. And how many times have I listened to this session? Probably 70.
I don't even remember saying it. That's the crazy part.
Did you love that? That's what
Yeah.
things the best. Guys,
Yeah.
do you have questions about that role play Laura and I just did? Give everybody a minute.
You have to.
In the
only
chat
one-
log, I got it.
What's that?
I said pop them into the chat log. I got it.
Yeah. The key is when someone wants to see property, you've got to validate to them that you're going to get them into there quickly. Because if you just go for, I want to set an appointment, they're going to find someone else that will just show them the homes. So you have to validate, listen, I will get you into the home super quickly and let's meet right beforehand. Okay. And they're willing to do that because they want to get into the home. And yet you're still providing that high level of service of doing the buyer consultation.
Brenda asked, is the financing really that quick?
Depends.
Depends.
It really depends on the lender, but most lenders can, and it depends on how fast you are with getting them what they need. I've seen some lenders turn a pre-qual letter in 30 minutes to an hour, and some take 24 hours.
Mhm.
But it should be relatively quickly as long as you are proactive, for the buyer to actually be proactive with sublender.
Yeah, and this is where having those relationships with vendors and our mortgage lenders and preferred partners really come into play, because you can say, hey, Josh, I've got somebody looking to sell and buy. I need, XYZ quick. What does your day look like? Can I drop off lunch to make it go faster? Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like those relationships is where stuff like this comes into play.
Yeah.
And then there's one more question that says, what if they can't afford the house they want to look at when originally asking for? So maybe my townhouse is $379.9, but I'm looking to upgrade to $579.9, $689.9. What does that look like?
Yeah, so if it's a scenario, let's say it was a scenario where they were getting pre-approved today and we're going out tonight to look at it. What I'm probably doing is once I hear back from the lender, I am calling the buyer ahead of time. And I'm having a conversation at that point over the phone, okay? Because I know we have an appointment and then to go look at the homes. If I just have a consultation, but I'm not immediately going to look at the homes, I will do it during the consultation.
Yep.
But it just depends on the scenario. I ideally would like to have this conversation in person. However, if I have a consultation and then going straight to looking at homes, I'm going to do it before the consultation because they're excited to see those homes.
I would also point out too that you're not the mortgage lender.
Mhm.
So while we have to set expectations of different things, these are also times where if you've got that personality where the people is, I still want to see the house no matter what, we need to make sure they understand what their buying power truly is. And sometimes tagging in your mortgage professional is an okay thing to do to help with that conversation.
Yeah.
Also, conducting a needs analysis is really going to take this out because then you can show them, all right, well, you were looking for a property at 580, your buying power is 500. Let's look at the qualities of this house that you want to see in the area you want to be in and put a number at 500,000. Well, then, and if it comes up that there's one property in the area that's under that 500K mark that they can afford, well, then it's time to go back through their actual needs and make and kind of reshuffle the deck for what is actually going to be actionable for them and make them happy in a home.
Mhm.
So needs analysis, we'll cut through that, having a good understanding of what is feasible and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it's ideal to have this conversation at the buyer presentation if you're not going straight into the home to see it. And how I always say it is I'll say something like, I'm so excited to still meet you today at 4. And, I know you talked to so-and-so lender and he ran your number or whatever, he got you pre-approved for 500,000. I know the homes that you wanted to look at were like 580 to 620. And I wanted to have a conversation with you before we met tonight because my concern for you, so by the way, write down these 3 words: fear, worry, concern. Use those words a lot, okay? So like my fear is, or my concern is, or I'm worried that if I bring you into a home listed at 580 and we know how the market is right now, homes are selling at 99.5% of list to sold price. And a lot of times they're going above what they're listed at. You're going to fall in love with a home at 580. And then what happens is any other home that we look at that is in your price range, it's going to be a disappointment because you're always going to be comparing it to this home that you fell in love with at 580. Right. And I don't want to put you in that position. And Brooke, you know what? I would rather disappoint you now than disappoint you later. So what I'm going to recommend is that we still meet today at 4. We go really clear on what your must-haves are and your wants are. And for us to really take a look at the MLS and see what there is available in your price range in line with what you want. Does that make sense, Brooke? Does that sound like a good game plan?
That sounds like a great game plan. I was just so excited when I saw those house signs go up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, we'll go ahead and meet. And we're not gonna, see those homes because I don't want you to fall in love with a home that you can't purchase at this time. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Okay. So you're going to get the buy-in. Okay. But, use the words fear, concern, and worry. You got to show them that you care about them. And those 3 words really do that trick. Any other questions that popped up that I'm not seeing?
No, just some chatter about stuff that our lenders can. And guys, remember, reach out to your market center leadership too, because many of our preferred lenders hold classes or CEUs or do one-on-ones with you guys, and they'll go over the loan products and give you printouts and all the information. And I just want to add this one thing, and my lenders are always so good about saying this at classes. We are not lenders. We are not home inspectors. It is okay to defer to those people for those questions. When you went to real estate school, you got licensed to be a real estate agent, not do mortgages, not be inspectors, not be title people or lawyers. This is where you say, you know what, that is a great question for my lender. Would you like, for your lender, would you like me to reach out to them with you, or would you like me to help you find that answer with them? Right? Like, that's their job too.
I would always give them a quick overview on what they might ask, just to give them kind of a little roadmap, but always, 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 always defer to the professional,
Yeah.
right? Always defer to the professional. If it's a legal question, lawyer.
Yeah.
A lender
Yeah.
question, lender.
And as I said, you know, get into lenders lead generate to real estate agents. Okay. Title attorneys reach out or lead generate to real estate agents. That's where they get their business from. So, you know, when I was a new agent, you know, there were times when I'm like, you know, I want to have lunch out, but I might not be able to afford it. I would reach out to a mortgage lender and be like, hey, I heard great things about you. You know, let's go out to lunch. And like, I'd love to pick your brain about mortgages. And they would always pay. Like, it was like, it was perfect. It was a win-win in my book. And, you know, I have great relationships with those lenders. I feed them a lot of business, even to this day.
Yep.
So, you know, it wasn't one way, but in the moment I was like, I need your information and I need the food. So like, let's go. And that always worked out great. So, you know, pick their brains.
Yeah, remember to interview these lenders too. Like, figure out who's going to jive really well and work with your style, and that's going to create a longer term relationship where you're going to be able to leverage that out to as many buyers as possible. So just remember, not every lender is created equal. Some of them are going to have better hand holding abilities that are great for first time home buyers. Some are just like, I got the lowest rate in town and I'll be able to get this done today. Figure out who's gonna work best for whatever buyer you're working with at that time.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so creating the presentation. So the really cool thing is Command has put together an amazing buyer presentation that you could just honestly just use today and it would be excellent, or you could spend a little bit of time to customize and add your little flair to it, make it feel like you. But this is where you're going to spend the time. You're going to go into Designs applet, which is the square with the little pencil, and you're going to create a new design. Okay, and you're going to search, I'm assuming it's called buyer presentation in Designs. Okay.
It is.
So you're going to search for buyer presentation, and it's going to be under the buyer portion once you kind of get into the design. And, you know, you want to go through it, but we're going to show you some of the pages and kind of talk about, you know, what's in there and what it should look like and feel like and all that good stuff. Okay. So this is the standard table of contents. You can see, you know, as Josh and I were talking about, the first part is the needs analysis, their dream home and their preferences. Okay. You know, it's do not change the order is my recommendation. You want think about, I always relate it to dating. Imagine going on a date, okay? And the person spends the entire time that you're on a date with talking about themselves and how wonderful they are, what they're going to do and everything that's great about them. You leave that date. Do you think it's a great date? No, it's a horrible date. Whereas if you have a date and they sit down and they're asking questions about you, what's important to you? Let me find out about you. You really go, oh my gosh, that was the best date ever. They were really interested in me. You're dating your buyers at this point in a buyer consultation presentation. So you want to start out by making them feel important, loved on, special, and you do by asking questions about them. Okay. And that's what you're always going to start with that. You know, and you can see then there's a section on neighborhood or like market statistics information that's kind of showing your expertise. Buying 101 about the process, your service, your promise, and kind of glossary of information. So we're going to kind of go through these, you know, in a little bit more detail. So you can see this is, This is just one of their static pages that starts that needs analysis question, the question process. I don't know if anything jumped out to you, Josh, on this page that when reviewing it.
Sorry, you caught me multitasking. I was looking
okay.
at what was just asked.
Yep, no, oh, sorry.
Well,
so
what I
we
love
learned
for
that-
this, Laura, is that
Yeah.
if you don't know what to say, if you are stuck, this cues you up.
Yeah.
This cues you up.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, that's the great thing about this, so, and this is where like your personality may want to be you may want to adjust this, but as Brooke says, is that if you're stuck on what to ask, it literally tells you, okay, so what I want you to do is I want you both, let's say it's a couple, to visualize your dream scenario for buying your home. Like, what does that dream look like? What's the one thing that would happen to make that dream scenario reality? How can I make that happen for you? Why is it important to you? If we could just add one more thing to the process to make it better, what would it be? Why is that important to you? So you literally can ask those questions, okay? And that kind of guides you through it. If you don't like those questions, you can change them. Okay, everything in command is editable. Okay, so, for me, I would change the first question. I would start with visualizing your dream scenario, and I would say, explain that dream home to me. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Why is that important to you? So but adjust it, make it your own on how you speak and communicate with people. And that's you could use it as is and it's completely fine. Then it goes into a little bit more of specific needs analysis. Okay. And once again, you can adjust it. So for example, I asked the pre-approval question before my standard for my business is we don't meet with buyers unless they're pre-approved. So I'm not asking in the buyer consultation, have you looked into getting pre-approved? Because I've already had that conversation. So I'd be removing that question. Okay.
I'd start with timeline.
Yeah.
Timeline is always going to be the biggest differentiator because they'll sit there and say, oh, I want to buy in a year. Here's when we'll start looking. And I think the biggest misconception is that from starting to look to actually buying a home, instead of it being a 1 to 3 month process, it's usually 6 to 12 months based off of what they're looking for, because there's going to be a large learning curve. The needs analysis takes a lot of that out there, but just from every buyer thinks they know more than you do about the market. That's just inherent people. So I would start with timeline and then try to work through it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think timeline's super important. I love asking needs versus wants. So, how I'll ask it is, what are some things in the home that you absolutely have to have that if it doesn't have, you don't even want to see? So let's say that they say, well, it has to have either, oil or natural gas heat. I don't want electric heat. So then, what are they doing? They're on Zillow on the weekends and they're shooting you a Zillow property. Hey, I saw this one. It didn't come up in your search. Can we go see it? And you're like, okay, whatever. Why didn't it come in my search? And you realize, okay, it has electric heat. That's when I go back to the buyer and say, hey, when we met initially, you indicated you absolutely did not want to see any home with electric heat, and this home has electric heat. So has your needs changed, or do we not want to see this home? And 9 times out of 10, they say, well, we don't want to see it. We didn't realize that. Zillow, you can't really tell that, or whatever. And then that saves you that trip on the weekend away from your family, away from your personal time, showing a home, and they realize, oh, I didn't realize it had electric heat. Yeah, we're not interested. And you're like, I'm literally going to shake you because I'm so angry, but that's your fault as the agent. You got to own that. And you own that by getting a really, really good in-depth needs analysis.
Yep.
So I love talking about needs and wants, and also ask what's important to it. So about it, because, and I know that sounds a little silly, but for example, and I always remember this because it's like a funny story, but I had a client that they said, we want a home that has a large backyard. And I was thinking it was for their kids playing because they had kids or their dogs, and and yet I always ask the question, well, tell me what's important to you about having a big backyard. And they, no joke, said to me, we want to own a home where we can walk around naked outside. And I was like, okay, so let me ask you, if it's a small backyard that backs up to woods that's undevelopable, would you be interested in that? They're like, yes, that would be perfect. That's what they ended up buying. But if I hadn't asked that question, I wouldn't know that they wanted to be naked in their backyard.
But
So
wait, can I ask what you got them for a closing gift? Was it something really good? Like, I just need to know. Was it sunscreen? Like lots of sunscreen?
this was like 12 or 13 years ago. I can't remember what happened yesterday, Brooke. I have no idea. But I literally, every time, because I do pop buys, I do a lot of pop buy gifts to my database. I know, like, I'm always like, I've got to text them like, hey, I'm popping by, are you naked? Like, I literally will ask them that question and they're like, nope, we're good, come on over. So,
Wow.
Yeah, I go there with my clients. So ask why it's important to them, you would be surprised. I love the section on communication, like what's the best way to reach them? What's the best time? How do they be preferred to be notified? I will say something that I would add to this. I'm super passionate about controlling your schedule and setting expectations on communications. So whenever I meet with a buyer or seller, I take my phone and it's off, but I turn it upside down on the desk so I can't see the screen. And at the end of the consultation, I will say to them, I say, I hope you noticed that my phone was turned off and upside down. And I do that because this was my time and appointment with you. And I respect you enough to give you my full undivided attention. And what they always say at that point is, that's amazing, because our last real estate agent didn't do that. They were always on the phone, checking their texts. Their phone was ringing. It was so annoying. Like, they always say that. And I say, yeah, I said, yes, I know. I had the same experience with the real estate agent I used before becoming a real estate agent. And I committed not to do that to my clients. And though, what I will tell you is, though, this same level of respect I give to you, I give to all of my clients. So what that means is, most likely if you call, email, or text me, there's a good chance I'm going to be in an appointment with one of my clients and not answering your calls, email, or text immediately. But my commitment to you, as long as it's not super late at night, is I will get back to you after my last appointment. If it is a late at night appointment, I'll contact you the next day. And, you rest assured that I will get back to you, in a timely manner. What this allows me to do is, it allows me to sit down with my family at dinner time and have my phone off. It allows me to be present in my life. It allows me to take a night off, because my appointments with my family are my number one appointments.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm not going on social media and taking a picture of my family eating dinner saying, oh my gosh, family night. I'm not doing that night. But it really allows, like, if you feel like you're always on call with your clients, you can have control over that. You just have to set expectations. Okay. And I think that's super, super important. Too many agents, I just say, get worn down from the need to be responsive in that moment their entire life. And it's unnecessary.
Your value is not the fact that you are going to be on the phone 100% of the time. Your value is what you're doing with this buyer's presentation, with the needs analysis, with being the appropriate professional.
Yep. I do love this question at the bottom. If I find a home today that checked all of your boxes, could you see yourself making a move sooner rather than later? That goes back to that timeline. Or even asking, if I found a home today that checked all of your boxes, would you be prepared to put in an offer today? Would you be ready? You want to know, no, we're not ready. We're just looking for about 7 to 8 months. We just want to be ready in 7 or 8 months. Okay. You want to know that up front. Okay. Because it may change what you say or the process around that. Once again, your home wish list. I am going to just put a little caveat out here, because I am a huge rule follower. I would absolutely remove the first question. I believe it is a fair housing violation.
Yeah, and I think this is an older version of this presentation. I think they just didn't update the slide. When I looked, I'll check again, but I didn't see this on the questions.
Okay, all
I
right,
think
good.
this might just be an older preview because
Yes.
this is one of the first buyer's presentations that was in command.
Okay, yeah, please do. Yeah, so please remove that first question because that is a fair housing violation. I literally, my heart started palpating when I looked at it earlier. So I was like, don't ask that. But all of these are great questions. Once again, you can, add things, change things. Your top 5 needs we talked about, non-negotiables. I do love the second to last question. Do you want a house move-in ready or willing to do some work? I would get super specific on that. Okay, so I actually go through with them and I ask, let me ask this question. Are you willing to paint your home? Do painting to your home? What about major electrical work? What about renovating a kitchen? What about dealing with plumbing issues? What about water in the basement? What about putting on a new roof? If the price is right, would you be willing to do that? And literally I start with paint and I end with replacing the gutters. And there are times that people say no to everything instead of paint and replacing the gutters. And I literally tell them, I'm concerned you shouldn't be a homeowner at this point. Because you're gonna have to do something. Even if you buy a condo, you're going to have to do some home maintenance. And if you're not prepared to do any of that, it's not gonna be a fun process for you. It also helps when they say, oh yeah, we're not willing to renovate a kitchen. And then they send you that Zillow listing and you can see the kitchens from 1970s and you can call them and say, hey, Josh, I know you mentioned you didn't want to renovate a kitchen. I just wanted to make sure that 1970 kitchen was what you're going to be happy with because I know you don't want to do kitchen renovations. So I'm assuming you like the retro style. I would say it nicer, but I'm assuming you like the retro style, Josh.
I mean, if you really want to get that aggressive with it, yeah, that's fine. I mean, and that's kind of, so just for like, I never thought that I was when my wife and I bought our own home, our kitchen was done. Lo and behold, I never thought I was gonna have to do a kitchen renovation. And then we started having babies and we did a kitchen renovation because I don't get to make choices. But like throughout the life cycle of you owning a home, you will eventually be doing almost all the touch points that Laura just mentioned.
Yeah.
So have an understanding of that there is a life cycle for all of this. It's usually every 10 to 12 years is when you're going to be refreshing every piece of that home.
Yep, absolutely. Another question that I love to ask, this was from the original buyer consultation before command. The question is, have you seen a home online or in person that you loved? And so they'll answer. So some people are like, oh yeah, we stopped by this open house and we love this home, da, 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 da. And I'll ask, what did you love about it? Tell me about it. And then I will ask, why didn't you purchase it? I want to know, was it because they weren't pre-approved? Was their lease not up yet? Or did they get cold feet? Like, it's just all information because it allows me to help them through. If I know that they had cold feet, they're like, yeah, it was a perfect home. And we were so close to putting an offer. We are pre-approved. It was in our budget. And we just got scared. And we just figured we'll hold off buying a home. Well, then I need to kind of talk through the emotions about being scared about buying a home. Okay, so it's just helpful information instead of you showing them 20 homes and them being scared every single time. And you realize and getting frustrated with them and angry with them. And then you're putting on lab coat agents on Facebook. I'm so frustrated with my clients. I've showed them 20 homes and they're getting cold feet each time. Like, you control the process. Okay, so control the emotions and have the conversations, and you don't know what they are until you ask. Anything on the chat, Josh, that I need to know about?
Sorry, I'm responding to Jennifer. If they're ready to buy but need to sell their existing house first, would you add contingency on the offer and then prepare to rep their current home to prepare to market or find other agents to list? And what I said, ideally, it makes the most sense for you to represent them on both transactions. I would have them ready to list when you're already going out. You don't have to list it right away, but have it ready to list as you're going to look at these homes. And then in any offer sheet, make it contingent upon them selling their current home with a time limit attached to that it needs to be under agreement by X time. That is the only way that it is going to be fair and I would say aggressive enough to the seller that they're presenting to, by putting that time limit in there for them to understand that the transaction will go forward. I apologize. I am all over the place this morning. I cannot get a coherent sentence out of my mouth in any type of fashion right now. So I do apologize. Does that make sense, everyone? Just nod your head, say yes, no. Okay.
It made sense to me.
All right, perfect. Good.
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Killing it.
Yeah. And when Josh says like be ready, like, have the pictures taken, have the MLS information, depending on your MLS, if you can have it.
Have it pre-populated.
Yeah, pre-populated and
Have
saved.
all of your materials, everything ready to go. You're just not listing yet because you haven't found the right home. And then present it that way in your offer sheet, being like, look, we're putting this offer in on Monday. I'll have this listed on Wednesday. And if we're not under agreement 14 days later, well, then we can revisit this current contract. You have the option to terminate and move on.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. All right. So neighborhood insights. So demonstrate expertise. This I think is super important. I think agents as a whole, and actually I think some of the agents that have been in the industry longer miss this opportunity even more, is, the number one question that we get from buyers or sellers or just general public is, how's the market? And like, I literally just want you to all think in your head, how would you answer that question right now? How's the market? And what I normally hear answers like, the market's great. It's super strong. It's a seller's market. Why do you ask? Those are all good answers. What I'd love for you to be able to do is have a great answer though.
Don't be vague.
What's that?
Don't be vague.
Don't be vague, right? Study your market statistics every single week. If someone asks you, how's the market? You can say, you know what, it's extremely dynamic right now. Home prices are actually up 18% compared to this time last year. And interest rates are still, 2% lower than they are at a historical average. And that's why there still are so many buyers out there. So it's a great time to sell. And it's even a great time to buy because you can get so much home, and have a low interest rate. So the money you're borrowing is less. You can be super, super specific. The neighborhood insights allow you to be specific in regards to an actual neighborhood. This slide, to be honest, is a little bit confusing to me on what you would put in there in the buyer consultation, because I'm not sure where they're looking to buy yet. You might have a general idea. So if I didn't know where they were buying, I'd probably remove this page and put in just general market statistics of the area. But if you do know their neighborhood, then this is great. It kind of auto-populates it all for you and pulls it right from command. Anything you wanted to add on that, Brooke?
Yeah, this may be great if they're selling their home as well. Or again, if you do know where they're kind of looking, this may either point them in a different neighborhood or say, yes, this is where we want to continue to look. And you just want to be super clear about neighborhoods. Neighborhoods are hyper specific, and we will learn more on those on tech classes, but those are a specific area drawn in next door. So what I may see is Hyde Park or Rose Hill. It's whatever was drawn in next door and created. So when people often say to me, these numbers are wrong, no, these numbers are correct based on the hyper local. And that's a word, that's a phrase you're going to hear all the time in our ecosystem. These are based on very hyper local numbers. So yeah, I would, again, these buyers presentations, make them yours.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You don't have to put this page in.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
What I would,
Heather Austin asked, where can we learn about the current housing market?
So many
places.
So start with your local market center. There's also a class called Market Navigator. Being curious and looking through the MLS every day to see what's on in NAR, MAR, NAR, RAR, whatever the name of your local board is. There's a ton.
You're just making noises now. We all know.
I know, right now. Isn't that like they're all named like super funny names?
Yeah. I will say most MLSs have a market statistic section where you can draw areas yourself, you can put in neighborhoods, you can put in zip codes, and it will pull all the market statistics. I recommend, they usually come out like, depending on the MLS, and I'm part of 3 MLSs, but they're all like right around the 12th or the 13th of the month for the previous month. So pull them and don't feel you have to memorize everything. Memorize just like 2 to 3 super important market statistics. And then when you go on a buyer or a listing presentation, pull the market statistics, and then you can go over it in detail. What I will say from a buyer perspective, I always go over the percentage of list price to sale price in this market. And once again, like my favorite line for my buyers is one that I used with Brooke already, is I'd rather disappoint you now than disappoint you later. So, I'll say, and I say, well, right now in so-and-so area, homes are selling for 98.7% of what they're listed for. And they're selling in 6 days on average. And I'm sharing this with you because if your strategy is to come in 5%, 10%, 15% lower than the list price, especially for homes that are recently listed, it's not going to be a winning strategy. And you're going to end up being disappointed and frustrated. And I'd rather disappoint you now than disappoint you later. So when we do find that home that hits all your buckets, will you be prepared to put in an offer that's in line with what we're seeing in the market of homes selling for 98.5% of list to sales price? And then they say yes, okay, or they may say no, but you kind of handle that objection. And then when they do find the home and you're like, oh my gosh, this home was just listed yesterday, it's listed at 500,000. They're like, yeah, we're thinking of coming in at 480. And that's, I said, well, Brooke, remember when we sat down during the listing presentation, and homes that especially are selling quickly, the average is 98.5, and homes that are selling less than 6 days are probably even going higher than list price. So coming in 20,000 less at a home listed just yesterday is not going to be a winning strategy.
Which will also be, you'll be able to kind of take into account, probably the easiest thing to handle that objection is running a CMA, running comparative market analysis for that person to show them, all right, here's what has gone in a half-mile radius in under a week. Here's what they sold for, and they're going to see that it's most likely 3 to 5% higher than what the list price actually was. So let the numbers do the talking for you in that scenario.
Correct. Don't be an order taker. Don't be the person that works at McDonald's and someone drives up the drive-through. Welcome, McDonald's. May I take your order? It's not, you like this house, what would you like to offer? It's, let's look at the information, and as the professional, here's what I'm seeing. Now, knowing all of this information, let's make an informed decision that helps you with your goals. Okay, that's being a professional versus an order taker. Okay.
And just jumping back real quick, if you're on the MLS and you type in and you're just doing your normal search, there is a button right before, instead of hitting results, on that top bar, it says stats, and that'll give you quick insight on average list price, average original price. And then if for solds, it'll give you the average sale versus what the average list was. So if you're looking for market statistics on a town by town or zip code basis, that's really, really easy one to utilize. It's really, really quick. It's not going to give you, the best insights in the world, but it'll give you a pretty good idea percentage wise on what the market is doing in those local towns.
Yeah. And every MLS is a slightly different on that process. So if those instructions are like, I don't see that button, go to your local market center, productivity coach, leadership team, ask them how you do market statistics in your MLS. So, okay. How buying a home works. Now I can't speak. How buying a home works. Okay?
I rubbed off on you too much. I'm sorry.
I know, right? So this I love, this really goes through the timeline. Okay. And I spent a lot of time on that needs analysis portion of the conversation. And then during the timeline, I also go through a significant amount of time. And I talk about specifically where the different hurdles are that they will come across. Okay. So, hurdles, especially like home inspections, like negotiation, home inspections, appraisals, and kind of what that looks like, setting expectations. What is a home inspection for? What is a home inspection not for? It's not for cosmetic items. It's not for small ticket items. It's for safety concerns, large ticket items. Okay. And in this market, you may be encountering a scenario where you have to do a home inspection for informational purposes only. And what is your comfort level around that? Let's talk about that now to determine what our game plan is. You know, if you absolutely love this home and it's a dream home and there's 10 other offers, how would you feel about waiving the home inspection? How would you feel about making up the difference if there's an appraisal gap? You know, how would you have these conversations up front when they're not tied emotionally to the home? Because when they're tied emotionally to the home, they're like a deer in headlights. Sometimes they can't process as much information and view it unemotionally.
And everything goes out the window at that point.
Exactly.
All logic goes out the window. So by having the conversation up front, you're protecting them later on. And that's what they need to understand, is that not only are you trying to get them the home that they want, you're trying to make sure that they have outs if necessary, if things start going sideways, and you're protecting their money.
Yep. Absolutely. And if you don't, like, if you're looking at the process here and you're like, I don't know what that means, you know, feel free to jump in and ask the question right now. So everybody just take like a minute to look at the slide, and just, if there's any portions to the process that you're like, and please, we have all been there where you look at something, you're like, I'm not sure what it's talking about. You know, this is why we're here. We've all been in that seat. I remember I had my first buyer 24 hours after I joined my brokerage, and I had to go to my mentor and say, I don't know how to enter a property. And I felt like, I can't believe I'm asking this question. Like, but I didn't know how to get inside the property. Oh my God, the seller's going to be there. Like, I didn't know about lock boxes. Like, you know, so there's no dumb question. Everybody on this.
The biggest thing that actually threw me off on lock boxes was a super eye box that I didn't hear of it at first. So like, I went to a showing and I was like, all right, well, there's this box with no numbers or key, like there's no way for me to get into it. And I basically look like a monkey, like beating it. I had to call the listing agent, like, they're like, you need to have an electronic key. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was embarrassing. It happens though.
Yeah, it does. That's how you learn, right? So,
Yep.
All right, so it looks like we're good on questions, but don't just skip over this and say, oh, here's the process. You can look at it. Like, go through and talk about what to expect in each time, and you know what they should be prepared for, how you will handle this, all that kind of stuff. You know, once again, for me, I would be combining 1 and 2. I would be saying that it's a simultaneous thing that happens. At first, you're getting pre-approved and partnering with an agent, and we've already done that. You've already been pre-approved, and today we're deciding whether we're going to partner together to help you find a home. So that's a trial close.
Yep.
You know, we're both going to decide if we can work together in helping you buy a home. And sometimes they'll be like, what? You wouldn't be willing to work with me? I said, well, it depends. You know, if you have unrealistic expectations that I don't feel I can meet your needs, then I'll probably say, you know, there may be a different agent that you should work with. You know, because I want this to be a successful venture. And if I don't feel like we can come together on moving forward on a success plan, then yeah, we may choose not to work together. Okay, there's nothing better than a close than to have a takeaway to a client. Okay, just like on a different note from listings, like, you know, if there's commission pushback on a higher commission, one of my favorite lines is like, listen, I completely understand that not every single seller can afford me. And if that's your situation, I understand. And they're like, no, I can afford you. I'm like, awesome, great. Let's, like, they get so upset. Like, I can afford you. I can afford that. Okay, awesome. So let's move forward. And like, it handles the objection of the commission. So, you know, if you do a takeaway, that actually closes them. So if I want to close them, this is, and once again, an optional form of affiliated business disclosure. Every state is going to be different on if you need an affiliated business disclosure. And, you know, if you're using Keller Mortgage there, you know, I'm a huge believer in giving buyers options. I think it's super important to give them local options and to also give them the option of Keller Mortgage. If you're not familiar with Keller Mortgage, the philosophy behind Keller Mortgage is the bundling philosophy, that buyers can save money in regards to their closing costs and their fees around their mortgage because because we're the largest real estate company, and there's the volume of business that goes through Keller Mortgage, and Keller Mortgage does not have to spend thousands and millions of dollars advertising out because they're using the power of the company, and we pass on those savings to the consumer. Okay, and I think it is important to let them know that option. I also think it's important to let them know of local option. How I present it is we have both local options for local lenders, and we have a national mortgage company that may have a financial advantage for you. Would you like to hear about both of those options or only one of them, and which one? And I let them be the deciding factor. I should not make the decision for them.
Yep.
Okay, so anything either of you wanted to add on that?
It's not up to us to choose where your
Yep.
client gets their mortgage. It's up to us to give them options that save them the most money or get them into the home the quickest with the best rate, all that. I truly feel we are doing our clients a disservice by not showing them more, because let me tell you, people talk. And if somebody's a neighbor or a friend said, oh, I went through KW, I saved a ton on my mortgage because we use KW Mortgage, and they're going to be like, Josh didn't tell me about Keller Mortgage. What is this? They're going to be very upset with you. We have to provide options.
Yep. Have as many relationships as possible, give them as many options as possible, and just make sure that when you are, pushing those not pushing, but when you're suggesting those relationships, just make sure that, you're in their ear all the time, and that it's going to be an easy transition no matter who they choose.
And there's a ton of marketing and information in there to go along with it. So in the chat, I did post the Keller Mortgage. You log right in at the top right with your command username and password. You've got access to guidelines and logos and flyers, and you can also see the process. So if you got someone who's applied, you can also snag more info. Maybe you don't have a date of birth. Maybe you don't know certain things. You can snag that information right there, and you can refer a client right there. How do you want them to be contacted? And then there's more reports in there, metrics, stuff like that about who's using it in the region, who's using it in your market center.
Yep.
And yes, Jennifer, they can.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yep.
Awesome.
Can I take 2 seconds? I'll be right back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Run. Their office is so small, he'll be from one end to the other.
Oh,
Does anybody have any other questions about Keller Mortgage while he's... And not some states, I think most states have it, but not, I'm gonna mute him for a sec. There we go. Most states have it, and you can set up notifications. I love it. Play around, go look. There's a whole education section in there as well that gives you more, and you don't have to work with one loan officer. You can interview a whole bunch of Keller Mortgage loan officers, right? To meet one that fits you. What I really like under education is they have this thing called conversations, and they've got more dialogue and practice in there that you can watch on the videos on how to talk about mortgages a little bit. So it gives you, so if you don't have that lender in office, or you're not going into the office, this is a place to start getting more information. Just like Command, there is a chat widget at the bottom right, so you can always pop on and ask questions as well. But yeah, go check it out after this. I think your personal link's in there, so you have a personalized link you can send your clients as well, so that all the info comes back to you. So say 3 years down the line, they decide to do a Keller Mortgage, the loan officer is going to reach out to you if you're connected, and they're going to say, hey, one of your clients just applied for a mortgage. It has happened to my husband twice. He's a realtor, if you didn't know. He's not some random dude that just hangs out on Keller Mortgage.
sure.
So I love this page. Isn't it pretty? So I only put in like 1 or 2 pages at the end. So again, this template's huge. It's got a whole bunch of pages. You don't have to put anything, because if you don't have stats, don't put it in. But what you can do here is put your market center stats.
Yeah.
So if you are not, well invested into this process yet, if you don't have 15 years business, what you can do is you can find this information out from your market center. So you can say 20 years in business, 20,000 clients served, repeat, this is information the market centers may have for you, or just leave this one out.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and this, we're going back to the order. Think about, we just went through a whole slew of pages, and it wasn't until now, which is like the last 20% of the presentation, that now you're talking about yourself. Okay. What I will say is if you're going to do a bio, that written section, because you can include this page and not include the stats, or you could include your market center stats, and you can include a kind of bio about yourself. And what I would say is don't just talk about your real estate, about yourself professionally. I truly believe people do business with people they connect with. So probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I switched in my buyers and listing presentations. I included my professional experience. And then I also included something about myself, that I had the type of animals that I had, you know, that my husband's a high school football coach, and blah, blah, blah. And I can tell you, I would go into listing presentations and buyer presentations, and they would start with, oh my gosh, you have 3 dogs. We used to have 3 dogs too. What kind of dogs did you have? And we'd sit there and talk about each other personally. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. You got to give them the opportunity to like you. Okay, so like the stats and this information is all about the trust, but add in the like piece too, the know and the like. Okay, so it should be a balance between the two. And as I said, use your market center stats if you don't have stats. Okay, most market centers, or all market centers, should put out, you may have heard the lore, which is the language of real estate, which goes through your market center stats. And if there's a stat that you're looking for that's not on the lore, then ask for it. Okay, ask your MCA in your market center, and most likely they'll be able to pull it. Now, if you're going on a buyer presentation in 30 minutes, don't ask for it then. Okay, you know, you should be preparing ahead of time and allowing people to respond in a normal manner. Okay, but it's, you know, don't make it the market center's emergency because you waited until 30 minutes before your buyer presentation. Okay, all right. Now, conducting the buyer consultation. I mean, we kind of talked a lot about this in line. It's, I don't know, I don't know how you prepare and not talk about the buyer consultation at the same time. Right. So I guess I kind of just want to open this up to, like, anybody have any questions on what it should look like, feel like, all that kind of stuff. I will tell you the number one question that I get from agents is, well, shouldn't I just email over ahead of time the needs analysis questions and they can fill it out and email it back to me? So Josh, I saw you shake your head, and Brooke, you shake your head. Why are you guys saying no? Isn't that efficient? It's like, so it's efficient. I can just send it to them and they can send it back and I have all the information. Why do I need to talk about it?
You're losing the opportunity to A, get belly to belly with a person, and B, to differentiate yourself from the actual marketplace of other agents. So you're actually losing out on the opportunity to get them to sign an agreement with you over a 45-minute conversation. I hear a ton of agents are like, yeah, I'm just going to send it to them. They'll be able to go through it. How often are you reading what is sent to you at a high level to actually understand what you need to do, right? Mm-hmm. That's why we're having this Ignite. That's why we're having these Zoom meetings to go through it. If you're expecting them to get all the information off of that, you've lost the opportunity to differentiate yourself, and then you're doing yourself a disservice.
What's the difference between you and somebody who opens the door for them for $25 elsewhere?
Exactly. Right?
It's so cold. Don't be cold. The whole point of what we're doing is more human, more often.
Yeah. Building trust and rapport.
Right.
You want them to leave the buyer consultation going, man, I really like that work. I feel confident she's going to help us. I like her. This is going to be fun. We're going to do this.
She's got that energy.
Right? She like screams things randomly. I don't know what's going on.
This is a relationship for life. You're building community. You're not just having a sale. This is not, I'm going to buy a car. This is not cold. You're going to become their hyper local expert for all things in their community. You need a plumber? I gotcha. You need a roofer? I gotcha. You need a contractor? I gotcha. Right?
There are R's in all of those words. There are R's in all of those words.
Yeah. You need your eyebrows done? We gotcha. Right?
Why?
Baba?
My God.
I got one for everything in New England.
Oh my goodness, you're so
But
fun.
if you do conduct this at a high level where you're building that rapport, that one connection should lead to multiple home purchases and home sales.
Yeah.
Like this is not just I'm going to close you one time and done. This is building a connection for life.
Yeah. You can also, here's the thing, the two other reasons why I would never send it via an email. First of all, if you are in a couple situation or a multiple buyer situation, you run the risk of just one person. Like if you send it to my husband and me, I would fill it out and I would say, hey, I took care of that form that Brooke sent us. And my husband would be like, great, I don't have to do something. But my answers probably are not the same as my husband's answers. So, you know, it allows you, one, to see how, if it is a couple, how they interact, how they make decisions, how much on the same page are they? You can't do that with a form. Two, you can also clarify things. Okay. So, you know, it's one thing to say, you know, when you're asking the needs analysis and, you know, they say, well, what are your must-haves? And they're like, we must have this, this, and this. And they're like, they have it done. And they're like, well, you know what? I'm not really sure. We haven't talked about that. I guess our must-haves would be this and this and this. Well, those are two very different answers. It may be the same three responses, but with the first example, those are definitely must-haves. On the second one, I might push it and say, so you mentioned a fireplace as a must-have. So does that mean if I find a house that has everything else you're looking for and it doesn't have a fireplace, you don't want to see it? Well, no, we'd still want to see it. Okay. So this is a really big want, but not necessarily a must-have. Yeah, I guess that's the case. You can't clarify that. If they just list out fireplace, central AC, garage, you don't know how they're responding. You can't ask clarifying questions. Okay, so this is why you want to do it in person and not send it ahead of time. Super, super important. So we've kind of role modeled throughout the whole piece. My recommendation is once you have it created, find a role play partner and practice it. Pretend they're buying a home, you go, and then someone else goes, whether it's in your market center, whether it's in some of the region. I'm a firm believer, find script practicing partners outside of your area. Because guess what? If I have a script practicing partner in Maine and I'm in Cape Cod and that Maine agent knows me and realizes that I take my career seriously, I have a great buyer presentation, I practice my skill set, and they have a buyer for Cape Cod or a seller, who do you think they're going to think of to refer? Me, and vice versa. But if I'm role playing with the agent in the office next door to me and here in Cape Cod, and they have a buyer, do you think they're going to refer it to me? Probably not. Okay, so practice with people outside your market center. Okay, with Zoom, makes it so easy these days. Okay, so you can practice a buyer presentation. Definitely practice. Closing the buyer consultation. So I don't know every single state in New England if they have buyer representation agreements. If they do, and I'm assuming they do, you have to make a business decision on whether you choose to work with buyers under a buyer agency agreement or not. Some states may require it, okay? Or you have to disclose your agency relationship a little bit differently. Every state's a little bit different. So I want to be very general. Speak to your local leadership on what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. What would be, let's just kind of have a conversation. What would be the pros and cons about only agreeing to work with buyers who agree to work with you? So let's start with pros, and feel free to throw it in the chat, unmute yourself. What are pros? What are the advantages of you make a business decision today? I'm only going to work with buyers who choose to agree to work with me through a buyer representation agreement.
It's comfortable because you've got a definite client.
Yeah, you have a definite client. Yep, absolutely.
Well,
Thank you, Ignatius, for stepping up and unmuting yourself and participating. I appreciate that.
If
you don't have a contract, then you could do a lot of legwork for no value, like no reciprocity to you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could do all the legwork and then they turn around and do something without you and you
Yeah.
have no recourse.
Yeah, talk about the easiest way to get burnt out as a real estate agent is work really, really hard with a lot of hours and then continually having clients use someone else when it comes to when it really matters. And it is defeating. It is discouraging. You start to like believe, gosh, I don't even know if I want to be in this industry because people treat us so poorly. Okay, like you start to like, it messes with your mind a little bit. Then you start repelling clients. Like it's an easy way to derail your whole business. You know, because that's not fun to go through. What about a pro to the buyer? Why would this be an advantage to the buyer?
Because you have a responsibility to them and they know that you're going to look out for them.
Yes. Nelly, and I just love your accent. You can talk all day long and I can
Yeah,
just,
we can just, I think Laura and I are done. Nelly, you got the rest of the class. We're all set.
I love it. So yeah, absolutely. And it's, you know, they're getting the highest level of service, the highest level of advice. You know, if you have 20 buyers that don't have buyer representation, you're being run all over by people that are maybe not super motivated or super committed to you. And you're probably providing, you know, halfway service to all of them, versus if you have committed clients and you are just as committed to them as they are committed to you, that is the highest level of service to them. Okay. And so why do you think, I don't want to call it a con, but why do you think some agents avoid buyer representation agreements? Because a lot do. What do you think the perceived con is? What's up?
So I actually have a good friend that I'm trying to help him find a condo. And I'm going to use the word stubborn for him. And I respect his challenge because it's making me better. But his thing is, I'm treating this like a car sale. He goes, you bring me the right thing and I'll buy it from you, but not until then.
All right, Sean, have you gone through what exactly he's looking for at this point? So you've done a needs analysis, you've gone through
Yes.
areas, you've gone through all of that.
Yes.
Okay. Why
Yes.
wouldn't he want someone acting as a fiduciary for him at this point? And that's the question that I would ask.
Because he said that there's no reason to. He said, your job is to find me the right place to live. And he goes, when I see something that I like, he goes, I'll sign it then.
It's fascinating.
So
Some
I
people are
would
just like that.
You know, we were, both Sean and I work in the same market center. We had this conversation yesterday on Sunday when we saw each other. I've had this issue twice too. I've gone through the buyer presentation and they said, no, like, because other agents outside of Keller Williams, and I actually used to work in another market, I mean, in another brokerage. I came over to Keller Williams in July, and most people that I have met do not believe in buyer agreements, except for in Keller Williams. There is, like, when Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Association taught my class, you know, the class I took for my license, they obviously went over buyer agreements and said it was a good thing to do. But I noticed that most people don't like them. So I think that's, in my situation, I understand that they have worked with other buyers and they don't want to sign themselves away to one person.
Yeah, so how I handle it, and once again, everything's a business decision, right? And that's the beauty about real estate, is we get to make decisions on how we
Right.
run our business. How I handle it, and I do this very, very intentionally for two reasons. One is to handle the objection that you're getting right now. But in my buyer agency agreement, They're typically 6-month terms, but I do a 1-day cancellation clause in there. So at any time, for any reason, if either party does not feel like this is the right fit moving forward, it can be canceled with 1-day written notice. And so that, I explain that to my buyers. I say, listen, I say, the reason why I say 100% of the buyers that work with me do choose to work with me under buyer representation agreement. And in fact, I choose not to work with buyers who are not fully committed to me, because I know I cannot provide the best level of service to my client without this representation. And I want to make sure I'm providing that best level of service to you. And at the same time, I do understand that there's concerns that some people have about being tied into agreement and working with an agent that they're not 100% happy with. So what I do is I make the commitment to you, and it's in writing right here, that at any time during this agreement, you are unhappy with my level of service, you do not think I'm the best agent to help you buy a home, you can just send me a text, shoot me an email. The agreement is canceled with 1-day written notice, no questions asked. And usually that just wipes it all away. I can tell you, so I've been doing that for about 12 years now. I've never had a client cancel on me, but I've used that clause 3 times to fire a client. So it's just as much protection for me that I can get out of an agreement or a relationship than my clients can.
It's basically to do with commitment.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't commit to me helping you, then I can't commit to give you 100% of my time and my effort, because time is money. And if I'm wasting time helping someone that doesn't want to commit to me, then who's the winner here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also go back to that statistics page of the proof is in the numbers, and the numbers that I include. And once again, if you don't have your own numbers, you can use your market numbers, but I pull the multiple listing, the list price to sold price, then I pull my percentages for my buyer clients. So if homes are selling for 98.5% of list price to sold price, and yet we are negotiating for our buyers, it's always less, 97.2%. And I go through, one of the reasons why you're hiring me is not just to help you find that home, but to negotiate on your behalf and protect every single possible penny that I can in this purchase. And you can see the average agent in the MLS is only getting their buyer clients, 98.5% of what the home is listed for. And I'm able to negotiate over 1% more for our buyer clients. So we're saving you money, and you're looking at a $500,000 home. So that's $5,000 in savings. So when you hire an agent, it's not just to open a door, it is to protect your best interests and negotiate on your behalf and to help you get to that closing table. So you have to share your value proposition. If you're not sharing your value proposition, why would they hire you?
So I think it goes back to what you said earlier about people think that they know as much, if not more, about real estate than you. I think that that's part of what this guy is in his head. So that's one thing. And the other thing is he's willing to sign it, but not until you find it first. My goal is to do what you said. I want to get successful enough and have enough income where I can say I'm not going to work with you. But I think as a new agent, just the experience is valuable for right now.
And as I said, there's no judgment, there's no wrong decision. And, it may be that, yes, you know what, I'm willing to take this risk because I am viewing my value in learning how to show homes, how to talk to other listing agents, how to look at properties. And that may be enough value for you. As long as it's an intentional decision around, I know what I'm getting myself into. I know there's a chance that he may end up buying a home with someone else. I'm going to be at peace and okay with that, even with my time spent, because this is what I learned and this is what I got out of it. And as long as you're clear with that from a you perspective, because I care about you, I don't know the client, I care about you, you know, and there's value for you, then that's an okay business decision to make. It's what I want to protect you all from is getting, like, it breaks my heart when I see agents being like, I'm so frustrated with this industry. People just use and abuse you and they never, and that's where I want to protect you all from. If that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Yep, it does.
Awesome. So as I said, you know, because it's, if we're in a like a live classroom, would be breaking out into little like pairs and have you role model, but we're not going to do that. But we've role played, you know, kind of as best we could in our digital piece. Make sure you share your app with your clients. You know, my recommendation is we do ours on my team right at the buyer consultation. We have them get out their phone, we share their app, we show them how to use it, you know, go through all of that. You know, do it right at that. It connects to command, like the web portion of command. So whatever they're doing on the app, you'll see it on the CRM portion of command. So it's a great way to like see what your clients are looking at and favoriting and all that good stuff.
And here's what I love about this. So in your email signature, quickly search for homes on your phone. I love adding that in an email signature for all my agents. When you are in command and you go to consumer and site app and URLs, you can find your customized app. You do have to have your marketing profile done. You do have to have the toggle switched on where it says use my information to brand myself. That's what builds that app for you within 15 minutes of flipping that switch. Once that's there, guys, somebody gave us a huge stat at one of the mega camps or the family reunions, and they said if every person at KW shared one property from their app, Z, who shall not be named, would be put out of business. Like, that's a huge stat. Everybody should be sharing property. So if you want to show a property, you can help them curate collections. Anything your consumer's going to do is going to roll on up in command into the timeline, and you can sort your data bank by last visited, so you know when people are doing things. There's also a smart plan that shows them, hey, this is my app, and all you have to do is put it on people, and it's magic.
Once again, this kind of where shows you, you know, where they view listings, what listings they've seen, favorites, all that kind of stuff. And I always tell our agents that I use this information kind of differently depending on my relationship with the client. So if we have a really strong relationship, there's a lot of communication back and forth, I'll call them up and say, hey, Brooke, it's Laura. Hey, I saw you added 3 to your favorites. Like, you want to go and take a look at them tomorrow? Now, if Brooke is maybe like an internet lead or an open house person and like they don't ever return my calls or my texts or whatever, but I see they're in there all the time, you know, I may shoot them a text being like, hey, I don't know if you saw 1300 Deer Grove Drive, but it looks amazing. And it's very similar to the house you went and saw the open house at. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I was looking at that house already. Like, I pretend that I don't know that they looked at it. Yeah. And like, they feel like I'm this wizard that like, I'm reading their mind. Like, they'll call me back and be like, oh my God, you're reading my mind. We were just looking at that listing. I'm like, really? Wow. We're so on the same page. Like, I use this to my advantage to build trust and rapport.
Don't be creepy.
I'm creepy.
And you may see things like, hey, I sold this person a house 3 years ago, and they're looking at much smaller places in different areas. Or they may be out of your jurisdiction. So maybe they're looking at Florida properties all the time. Great time to pick up the phone because they may be looking to sell and relocate. Yep. Referral, or add another home as an investment or vacation property. And you wouldn't know that if you're unable to get them on the phone or they're not responding to texts, but now you have a great opener. Yeah,
absolutely. You can customize your buyer guide on your app. And super easy, and it goes through all the different steps. I don't think it's live yet on the app where like it will be like now you're under contract. It's time to schedule your home inspection. That's not there yet, correct, Brooke?
So that is now, it is connected to opportunities. You can choose whether to turn this off or on for certain clients. And now that's brand new. It just happened after Mega Camp. But yeah, you can customize this guide. It's pretty smart. You might just have to go in. There are some states where the lender does certain things, and in other states you do it. You set up certain things like inspections. So you just have to make sure the guide matches what you
Your
do in your
process.
state.
Correct.
That's the only big thing.
Yep. And all these pictures, like you can change these pictures like to your branding. You know what I mean? So like oh gosh, that was not a scrollable page. Sorry. I was thinking I was in my command and I could scroll down. That it's a PowerPoint, but you can customize all those pictures. So you can get really creative and fun in that. And yet don't stop lead generating or working with buyers and sellers because you haven't customized the pictures in your app. Okay, this is like, I can't sleep at 2 a.m. and I want to do something creative activity.
They're pretty good though. They're, it's by real estate people for real estate people. So
Yes.
the psychology behind the photos and the words is kind of matched up to what we do.
Yes.
Easy button. Just go.
Yep.
Do it.
Absolutely. All right, so we're kind of wrapping up, getting to the daily success habit section where you guys actually go into action. But before we do that, Josh, how many ahas would you like from the group today?
I want 5 ahas from the group.
Okay, 5 ahas. And
Is that
maybe
is that
some
too
people,
mean?
No, that's what I was going to say too. Maybe people who have not yet, contributed. I'd love to hear some different perspectives.
I would like to say that one of the ahas that I got was set the expectation with your clients. Like sort of be upfront with them and say, as far as like the agreements are concerned, hey, propose your value and say, hey, this is what I'm bringing to the table. And make them feel comfortable. If you're not, this is how it works. If you don't feel comfortable working with me, if you want to go ahead and cancel the contract, just give me 1 day notice, but just make them feel comfortable. That's sort of what I got out of that.
Awesome.
Like it.
Who else got something that made you think about something a little bit differently, or something you hadn't thought of yet, or you liked?
Heather Austin, match clients' energy, excitement, and concerns.
Yes.
Thank you, Heather. I like that as well.
Yeah. Three more.
We've been talking for an hour and 45 minutes. There's got to be something.
Oh, Brenda said fear, concern, worry.
Like
I
it.
love that one.
Yep.
My fear is that I'm concerned if you, I will worry
Worry
if,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, especially when you have to make someone wrong. Like sometimes we get into like, let's just think from like a seller perspective. Like, I get that the comps are telling me 500, but I want to list at 550. And, it's easy for the agent to get trapped into, no, you're wrong based on the data. And that telling someone they're wrong, and I know you're not saying the word wrong, but making them feel like they're wrong, nobody wins. Where it just says, I understand that you want to try it at 550, and I'm worried that, or I'm concerned that it allows you to disagree with them without making them feel wrong. Because the 2 things that people like more than anything across the board is to look good and be right. And if you're making your clients look bad and be wrong, no one wins.
Mm-mm.
Transition versus transaction.
Yeah, that was my big aha too. I love that word. I love that word, transitioning from one home to the next, not the transaction, because transaction sounds so cold sometimes.
Can I tell you all a trigger word for me that I wish agents would never use when they talk to clients? And that's the word database. When agents call clients and say, I'm updating my database and getting all correct contact information. I don't want to be on anybody's database. Nobody wants to be in a database versus saying, I'm reaching out to everybody I'm connected with. And I'm looking to make sure I have all correct contact information, because sometimes I mail fun things, or I might want to send a text, so I want to just make sure I have all the correct contact information so I don't lose touch with you.
One of our coaches uses client appreciation, or they have some term for their list, and people will say, well, I'm not a client, and they'll say, you're always here. I'm always here to help you. Just because we've never done a deal or helped you buy or sell doesn't mean I can't help you in other ways. Did you know I have access to vendors? Do you know I have access to this, to that? And such a great way to open. I
have a VIP group of people who've always been supportive of me in real estate, and I consider you part of my VIP group. That's another way to say it.
Gratitude. I think they called it their client gratitude list.
Yeah. So it's just please don't refer to database to your clients. That's agent to agent talk.
Yep.
That really is.
That's just total side note, but it is a trigger of mine.
Well, how many of you came into this world and you're like, they speak a different language? Like, they speak a different language. There's Kellerisms, there's mortgages, like there's all these words, and it took us a while to get the hang of these things. So
I mean, I'm still learning some of the language too, coming from an outside of KW background. So like it is, there's a lot of acronyms and just like that get thrown at you all day, every day, and they all mean the same exact thing. It's just about how you can communicate them effectively. And going to Laura's point, instead of saying database, I'd say like I'm updating my friend list, I'm updating my resource list. So like for vendors and stuff like that, those are the way I would say it, because she's right. Database sounds atrocious.
Yeah.
It's so cold. It's like, I don't like it either. I'm going to be triggered now, Laura. Thanks. Every time we talk about database.
Yeah. All right. What do we have? 2 more ahas before we go into action?
We've got my aha moment was understanding the agreement better and how to explain it in a way where you set the tone. This contract can be terminated in 1 day if unhappy with my services. Also allowing the realtor to terminate the contract as well. That's from Shanice Smith.
Yes. Awesome.
Agreed. A lot of people forget that a buyer's agency agreement is not binding. If you have as long as you have written notice, it can be terminated at any time. This just gives you the opportunity to act as a fiduciary and show them your value add. And after a day, a week, what have you, and they're saying this isn't working out, it can be terminated. You're not always locked in, but it's going to give you a little bit of peace of mind to act at a high level for them. I've now said high level 500 times in this 2-hour meeting so far.
I'm triggered.
You're welcome.
I'm triggered.
You're welcome.
So a lot of the questions, so here's my big aha, I'll round us up, is that you guys have some great questions. We have so much for you guys to continue to learn. So where can you find these things? Your local market centers. Start there. Your market center tech trainers, your leadership team, your local calendars. The other thing you have is, as a region, we have something called the Growth Call, where we give you more dialogues, more social media things, and ways to help you build your data bank. Because I don't love the word database either, because when you're done with me, you have a data bank. It's your 401kW when you're done with me. So the other thing we have is, if you don't have market center tech trainers in your office, or you're not sure where to go, every Thursday at 1 o'clock, you get me on Tech Time, and we have a back to school, back to business series going on right now. I'm going to be visiting a whole bunch of market centers coming up, so look for my database to data bank class. And did everybody join the Facebook Ignite group? Because if you didn't, I'll pop that Ignite group back in there. That's a great place to ask questions. That's a great place to look for the materials. If something breaks with one of the recordings, let us know. But you can always snag information from there.
And Brooke, I'm throwing up right now in the chat room. I am doing a training on Friday from 11 to 1. And it is using the DISC behavioral assessments to connect and communicate at a higher level with your clients based on their behavior. So if that's something that you're interested in, I am a certified everything DISC facilitator now. So I just got that, even though I've been training on disc for like 6 years. And so I have found that understanding how to communicate with people differently based on what their preferences are is extremely helpful in this industry. And so I gear it all towards real estate. So in regards to your disc test, Heather, I see that question is, thank you for putting that link in there again, some market centers may have that as part of their market center. So you can talk to your individual market center. I do have a way to do a disc test for people. However, there is just a pass-through cost. I don't make any money off of it. It's $55. There are free tests online, but I will tell you, they're about 80% accurate. So, so if, I'll give more detail on that class on Friday if you're interested. And I wish I didn't have to charge for it, but I get charged to run a disc assessment. So I'd love to be able to front that for everybody. And yet you don't have to sign up. Just go to the Google Meet link. We use Google Meet in our market center. We have 2 hearing impaired agents and we need it for the caption portion. So it'll be under Google Meet. You don't have to sign up, just come on and join us. And, I'm happy to have as many people there as possible. So
yep, just time block for it, throw it in your calendar right now, and under description, put that link in. Yep. And then again, even if you've never taken a disc, this is a fun class because when you start to learn the different personalities, you have 3 very different KW New England personalities on Ignite today. But when you know those things, sometimes you're able to match your presentation. You're going to know I have to come swinging with data, or this is going to be a giant hug and they're going to throw this presentation away, right? So it gives you some fun insight into how the brain works.
Yeah. And it's all real estate specific. So how to talk to buyers, how to talk to sellers.
Ooh.
Yeah, so fun.
I like that.
I'm excited.
I am as well. I might take it.
There you go. I'd love to have everybody join. So the more the merrier.
If it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that.
I got you booked, I know.
All right. So my understanding from 11 to 12 is you should be going into lead generation activities. Here's my recommendation, folks. Chunk things down. Make a commitment right now to send 3 texts, 3 DMs, make 3 phone calls, before the day is over, talk to 3 people in person while you're pumping gas or going into Cumbies and getting something. I always do 4 activities and pick a number and do that many activities per day and just have a conversation, and don't make it, who do you know looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? It just can even be a simple conversation of, hey, Josh, it's Laura Strunk. I think you know that I'm in real estate. I find a lot of people have a lot of questions about the market right now. Wanted to see what questions you have. I want to be a resource for you. See what he says. He might be like, I don't have a real estate question, but I need a roofer. Do you know a roofer? Or he may be like, Laura, it's so funny that you called because we were actually thinking of maybe selling our home. Okay, make it easy. It's a conversation. Okay, so but go into activity and do a few things. Different people communicate differently, different types of ways, and hit them all from all different directions. Okay, have voice-to-voice conversations though. And then also update notes in command, make sure the contacts are all in there, add them to a smart plan, put their social media links in there. Brooke is in love.
It's so good. It's so good. And guys, join. So we talk a lot about this on Thursday in the class called Building a Better Cheeseburger. And I'm not going to tell you any more about it. You'll have to come to the cheeseburger class to learn.
Assembly line.
Are you going to give us cheeseburgers?
I'm a food motivated animal, just in case anybody needs to know that for their command database. But no cheeseburgers, but.
Yep. Perfect. Oh, I love that. I was having the Ford conversation the other day with an old friend, didn't even realize it till the end. Absolutely. You all are familiar with Ford, right? Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Just checking in to see how the family's doing. How's work going? What are you guys doing for fun? Like, do you guys have any big plans this year? I know a lot of plans were people held off during COVID. Like, any big plans that you guys are doing this year? Any big trips? Any big things you got going on? Make it easy. Okay. All right. Any last minute questions while you got us before we have you guys get into activity? Looks like we're good. Thank you guys all for being here. We appreciate it. Go get it. You guys are all the right people to help buyers and sellers. You guys care because you're sitting here today. So your caring about people is your biggest gift you can give a buyer or seller. Have faith in that.
Good job, everyone. Thank
Yeah.
you, Laura, for spearheading this.
You're welcome.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Quick question.
What's up?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear how I would find or get to that presentation about the cheeseburgers.
So do you see the link above where it says bit.ly/KWNE Tech? On Thursdays, you can go to that. You also get an email every week with, you'll see my face as a cartoon about building a better cheeseburger. So we send that out a couple times. If you are not getting emails from the region, you guys can send me an email at b.silva@kw.com or salty@kw.com and just say, I would like to, can you check my subscription status to New England? Because a lot of our agents unsubscribe from things and then they don't get things. So b.silva, if you leave out the dot, Bruce will not answer you. He's a lovely gentleman, but he does not know what I do within the KW system, or salty@kw.com, or find me on Facebook.
Okay, thanks.
Good stuff.
Yep.
All right, guys, go get them. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everybody.
luck.
Good night.
Thank
Have
you.
a fabulous day.
Thank you, Laura.
Yep. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.